An old ex-shearer sits on his porch watching the world go by. It's a special place for him. Once he shared it with a black-haired girl. She's gone now, but he remembers. The story is The Porch by brilliant Australian writer John Kinsella. It's from his short story collection In the Shade of the Shady Tree, published by Swallow Press, 2012. I'm Kim Dodsworth, your Queensland storyteller. It'd be safe to say that he's been sitting on that porch for a good portion of 30 years, sitting there in a blue singlet and greasies, whatever the weather. He retired 8 years ago, and since then his time spent on the porch has increased. Maybe 80% of his waking life. Back when he was a shearer, he'd get home and sort out his grinding straight away, have a shower, make his tea, then settle out on the porch for 3 or so hours, drinking beer. If mates came around, they squeezed extra chairs onto the porch, sat on the wooden steps, or just inside through the fly-wire door, which opened straight into the lounge, which was convenient, because he could look sidewise from his perch on the porch. His chair always faced out to the road, and catch graph paper versions of the footy or cricket. The blokes on the shearing team hadn't liked it being called a porch, thinking it sounded vaguely ethnic and puffy, but he said it was too small to be called a veranda, no more than 8 foot by 8 foot, and stuck on the front of the weatherboard house like an afterthought, the roof just enough to keep the weather off, though in winter the rain blew in almost as far as his chair against the wall. And anyway, he told the younger shearers again and again, veranda is a word from India. It's not even Australian. They never believed him, thinking it dinky-die, refusing even to look it up to confirm or deny. After he retired, only one other shearer, also retired, kept regularly visiting him. It was as if he had never been part of a social order, gone and forgotten. But by way of compo, that one friend came most days and sat for a few hours drinking tinnies of swan lager. People in town had given up wondering why he sat on the porch so much. It was impossible to prise him from it unless by something already written into the fabric of his life. His friend, to whom he never referred to by name, had learnt long back, in fact early in their shearing days, not to ask him why he just sat there and drank, and waved to passers-by. Drink was actually the answer most wanderers resorted to, the obsessive-compulsive regularity of the alcoholic, safe in his patterns. The porch dweller chatted with his mate about the footy and the cricket and the old days, and even the news at times. He wasn't really that moribund. His friend did, however, have his suspicions. He had a hunch, and in some ways it involved him. And maybe that's why he stuck to his mate, attending the porch throne, drinking with the lord of the porch, and going nowhere fast. And as I sat there one afternoon drinking, looking out at the scant traffic on the road heading north out of town, and thinking, really, that the dry grass along the front should have been cut back before it got too hot to do so, the friend decided that he alone knew the truth, and it was time to stop beating around the bush in his own head, but also to confront his friend as he sat there, immovable, on his chair on the porch. "The sky is really blue today," said the friend. "Yeah, it comes with the bloody heat. There was a ring around the moon last night. Gonna be a storm this evening." "You wouldn't think it. Not a cloud to be seen." "No, but as you know, it brews fast here. It'll start coming in around there. Mark my words." His friend thought it best to come right out with it, so he did. "You know that time we met and did the run on Barry's team, down around Katanning?" "Yep, sure do." 5 months it was. Good run. I made a packet. Helped go towards a deposit on this place. 31 years, 4 months and 3 days ago, when we first met. His friend balked and looked across at his mate. "Gee, that's weird. How did you know that?" "I know a lot of things. You'd know that if you took any real interest in me." Hurt, his friend dropped his head and stared at a patch on his knee. Though sitting on a chair the same height as the porch dwellers, He felt so much lower, as if he was being looked down upon from a vast height. The friend listened to the crows carrying on in the jacaranda and thought he'd be damned if he went any further with his notion to confront. But his mate had felt a pang of guilt for having a go at his friend like that. He knew he'd stepped over an unspoken boundary, insulted his guest, been a poor host. "Sorry, just feeling off colour today. Always get like that when a storm is due," he added. Confused, his friend spoke before thinking. "At the end of the run, we had a cut-out at Hodges' farm and then went on to the pub. You were drinking with that good-looking rouseabout, the one with really long black hair wound up like a pyramid, and didn't go back to the quarters afterwards. You bunked down at the pub that night with her?" No reply, and nothing was said for a good half hour. Then the porch-dwelling mate replied, "Yeah, why bring it up now? You've never said anything about it before. Were you sweet on her as well?" "A bit, but that doesn't matter. It's just that no one I know even, ever heard of her after you checked out of the pub. She told the barmaid she was heading north. Then that was it. The boss tried to contact her again because she was such a good worker, but it was like she'd dropped off the planet." "Ah, she never dropped off the planet. She came here with me. To this town. I was renting a place on the main street. When I bought this house, she stayed for a couple of months. Then one day she walked out the door, stuck her finger out, and hitched north. Far north, she said she was going. Never heard from her again. That's what happens when you go up there. Nothing unusual about it." Both men drank another couple of cans before the lord of the porch, high in his chair, no, higher than ever before in his chair, said, "She loved this porch. Would sit right here where I am, sitting drinking beers real slow, saying it was great watching the world slowly go by. Slowly. There was even less traffic then. She was hot, as the learned shearers would say, and smart, and she drank heaps without losing it. But she couldn't settle, and had a roving eye. Got to me, that did. Every now and again. Got to admit it got to me. Nice to feel special. Unique, you know." The friend noticed something in his mate's tone as this confession, was it a confession, tumbled out. He wasn't sure why he asked. "But you never took it out on her? You didn't give her a hiding or nothing because you were pissed off with her roving eye?" "Because that wouldn't be right. I couldn't condone that, mate." The porch dweller erupted. He leapt from his chair and hurled his seat onto the front steps. He kicked at his friend, and for the first time in decades, the friend heard his mate yell, "Fuck off!" Beer spilled everywhere. But the strangest thing was the mate started to cry and slid down the weatherboards onto the deck of the porch, starting to mimic a young woman's voice, as if he was possessed, like something out of The Exorcist. "You're smothering me. You're pinning me down. You're spinning me out. I didn't sign up for this. I'm not your wife, mate, and you're an old bastard anyway. Best thing about you is your porch. This wonderful fucking porch where I can watch the world go by, go places north, go far, far away, never to be heard of again." Well, I'm sure you enjoyed The Porch by John Kinsella. I really enjoyed reading it. There'll be more stories of quality coming your way this time next week. Until then, this is Kim Dodsworth, Queensland Storyteller, signing off for now.